Hello everybody, my name is KingStix and today we're going to be talking about Nunu Jungle. Recently I made a video about why Nunu Jungle was complete garbage. This was 2 weeks ago. Recently in the last patch 8.2, Nunu got an insane buff which gave him loads of damage on his auto attacks off of his Q, and also added bonus AP to him and an ally on his W. After going over the patch notes, I recognized Nunu was going to be a very strong pick. I didn't realize he was going to be the strongest champion in League of Legends for patch 8.2. He currently has the highest overall win rate out of any single champion. Nunu has a very interesting scaling. In the early game, he is absolutely ridiculous. There's very little counterplay that the enemies can actually do. He can take your camps pretty much instantly. He's very quick, so you can't really chase him down. And if you try to run away from him and you're low on HP, he will kill you because he's very quick. One issue he runs into is after the 35-minute mark, his win rate jumps really far down, all the way up from 56% down to 50%, and if the game goes to the 40-minute mark and up, Nunu's win rate goes even further down. If you are in lower elos, Nunu isn't necessarily a great jungle pick since the games in lower elo tend to go past the 35-minute mark. If you are golden up and you're really trying to learn a strong champion for this patch, I would highly recommend Nunu. Let's go over the 2 best rune pages Nunu can take. If you are the only tank on your team, it is best to take Resolve for your main tree on Nunu, taking Guardian, Font of Life, Conditioning, and Revitalize. Guardian is going to help you and your teammates in fights, Font of Life, you and your teammates in fights, Conditioning, your overall tankiness, and Revitalize is going to help out your early game quite a bit, helping to keep your health just that much higher than the enemy junglers. That way you're safer in their jungle. In the later game, taking Revitalize isn't as good as Overgrowth or Second Wind, but it's definitely going to give Nunu an even bigger edge in the early game. For the secondary tree, you want to take Sorcery, taking Celerity and Water Walking. Celerity is really important. It's going to give you a lot of base movement speed that's not even out of combat. This is even while in combat. So if you are being chased down and someone's hitting you, you're going to be moving so much quicker than them with your Blood Boil and Celerity that there's no way they can catch you. The reason we take Water Walking is because it gives us a ridiculous amount of flat movement speed while we're in the river, which it is 25 plus a little bit of AP and AD. So whenever we are fighting for scuttles or taking early scuttles, there's no way the enemies can contest us because we'll have extra damage and movement speed. Water Walking is more useful than you think. A lot of the positioning Nunu does is in the river and in the enemy's jungle, so having that extra movement speed in the river can make the difference between living or dying whenever you are being chased by the enemy jungle and his laners. This second rune page is better if you already have 1 or more tanks on your team as Nunu. For your main tree, you want to take Precision, going Fleet of Footwork, Triumph, Tenacity, and Coup de Grace. Fleet of Footwork may seem like a strange choice. The main thing that it does is feed into an early game edge that Nunu already has on enemy junglers. This will allow Nunu to stay even higher HP in the jungle. It'll give him even more movement speed when attacking an enemy or just hitting a camp and then running away from an enemy. Triumph is really good for the early game when you're counter jungling the enemy jungler. Whenever you kill them or get off a good gank, you'll be getting gold back. Tenacity is wonderful from escaping from enemies or chasing them down, and Coup de Grace is also for ganking as well. Fleet of Footwork and Coup de Grace is really going to help you a lot more in ganks than the Resolve tree will. Of course though, this is going to hurt you a lot more in the later game, especially if you don't have any tanks on your team, since this won't be giving you very many tanky aspects. For your secondary tree, you're going to be taking the same thing. Running this as your primary, your secondary tree is going to be the same thing. Sorcery with Celerity and Water Walking. Those are the 2 best rune pages you can take on Nunu. There are other rune pages, but they really aren't worth it. Going AP or Sorcery is the main tree. You don't get enough value out of it in the early or late game to justify picking it. Now let's go over Nunu's build path. Your starting items on Nunu are always going to be the same. Hunter's Machete, Refillable Potion, and Warding Totem. Nunu uses a lot of auto attacks and has very high attack speed with his Blood Boil, so it makes a lot more sense to take Hunter's Machete over Hunter's Talisman, especially since he doesn't really have any AoE for him to apply the Hunter's Talisman to the whole camp at once. On your first back, you want to get a Tracker's Knife. It's going to help you put out a lot more vision, shut down the enemy jungler, and take advantage of his jungle as much as possible. It's also going to help you do it safely, because if you go into the enemy's jungle in the mid game or the early mid game without any vision, you're most likely going to get collapsed on very quickly, and there's a good chance of you actually dying. After you have Tracker's Knife, go straight for Balmy Cinder, and you want to go ahead and get Cinder Hulk before you actually get your boots of speed. Nunu has really high base movement speed, plus with the runes and your W, you're going to be moving around the map pretty quick. In the early game and the early mid game, you're going to move faster than everyone anyways, which is why you want to get your Cinder Hulk first for the fighting and clearing before you get your Boots of Speed. Now, after you have Cinderhulk, go straight for your Boots of Speed, and if you're level 9 or up, of course, get the Oracle Alteration. At this point, you want to get your tier 2 boots on Nunu. If the enemy team has a lot of auto attack based champions and they don't have a lot of CC, go for Ninja Tabbies, you'll get more bang for your buck. If the enemy team has a lot of CC, especially point and click stuff like Lysandra and Fiddlesticks, you're going to want to go ahead and pick up Mercury Treads. They're really going to help you out quite a bit. Everything at this point that you build is completely optional and situational. If the enemy team has a lot of AP, or at least the people on their team thus far who are fed or AP, I like to go for a Spirit Vestige. It gives you the health and MR you need to survive the AP. Also, it's going to give you massive healing bonuses on your Q. If the enemy team is mostly auto attacks and AD people, I like to go for a Thornmail. That way, whenever they hit me, they can't heal off of me. Plus, they take a little bit of damage. If the enemy team has a great mix of AP and AD, a lot of times I will go for a Warmog. If my team is already fairly ahead, and especially if I have carry characters that are ahead, people like Corky or Vayne, I'll go straight for a Locket after my Cinderhulk and tier 2 boots. You need to be looking for items that synergize with each other. For example, if you did go for the Warmog because the enemy team had a good mix of AP and AD, right after getting Warmog, you'd want to get something like a Locket since the Locket synergizes off of your maximum HP. It's a good item to build after Warmog. Plus, it's going to give you some armor and magic resist, so it'll help you out quite a bit since you haven't built any armor or magic resist really yet. That is the thought process for building these items. All of them are pretty solid picks on Nunu, but each one isn't necessarily essential for Nunu. Here are some more items that are even more situational for Nunu. First, we have Dead Man's Plate. It's really good if the enemy team is all AD. It's going to give you a lot of movement speed. It's going to help you navigate in a fight, get out of bad situations, and chase people down. If the enemy team has a lot of repetitive AP damage, people like Cassiopeia, Kel, Malzahar, Adaptive Helm is going to help you out loads for tanking. If the enemy team has a lot of AD based champions, several AD carries, after you get your Thornmail, something like a Frozen Heart would be very nice, or maybe a little bit later after you get some more HP. If the enemy team has 2 or more crit champions, something like a Tristana Yasuo, Randuin's Omen is a great choice. If you have multiple hyper carry champions on your team, getting a Knight's Vow is a great option. And if you did go for the Spirit Vestige, after Spirit Vestige, getting something like Redemption is very smart since you will be getting bonus healing from the Redemption off of your Spirit Vestige, and the Redemption will be helping out your team. And that is going to conclude the items and wrap this up. If you guys did enjoy this video and want more content like it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.